Okay. Yeah, this isn't going to be one that's specific to Cardassians, but I decided to use them as an example. Planet of Hats, and how that applies to writing various Star Trek races in a tabletop game. And, well, I chose the Cardassians because of the fact that they are a race that has been used in many ways, many times over the years, and even starting in some of the earliest appearances of Cardassians, they're not uniformly depicted. And that is something that is probably a large part of why people find them to be such an interesting race. I mean, okay, yes, they look cool and stuff, and, prominently featured, but they were always a race that was interesting. They I mean, like the Ferengi, for example, did not get used as bad guys because they came across as being too comical for people to take them seriously as an actual major threat to the Federation, whereas the Cardassians, well, even not being overtly hostile, Cardassians are a serious threat without being, necessarily evil. And that's actually one of the things about the Cardassians as a race that is one of the coolest things to ponder. Because like each individual Cardassian character has their own motives. Now, groups of characters might share the same motives, you know, especially when it's a ship's crew, like, Gul Maset's crew. All of them are Cardassians who work for Gul Maset. They don't just do their own thing, they do what Gul Maset tells them to do. Within reason, obviously. But, and as we see here in this little blurb, there's been a lot of bad things the Cardassians have done. They've been enemies of the Federation on multiple occasions. But they've also helped the Federation on some occasions. So, yeah. Like I was saying before, the Planet of Hats thing. The overall description you would have for the Cardassians is a militaristic society that places value of the state over individuals. And, well, reasonably true. That's about as far as you can go with defining them as a culture without getting into something that's not fully accurate. Because again, it's like they've been used multiple different ways over the years, and while there are certain broad similarities, they're not all that detailed. So let's go with another example. Klingons. Part of what made the Klingons interesting as bad guys is that even in TOS, the Klingons were not cardboard cutout bad guys. In TOS, the Klingons were a race that you could negotiate with. Sometimes Kirk did cooperate with them. He didn't always fight them. They were people to be talked to, not merely enemies. And sometimes you would have to fight them. Sometimes, but not always. Which, you know, made for interesting stories and made the Klingons themselves memorable. And for a third example, Acamarians. Yeah, they're an alien of the week. They're not a race that has been seen in multiple series, and not a race that has been in more than one episode. No, actually, I think they have been in more than one episode now. Vengeance Factor, Vengeance Factor. Oh yeah, Starbase 80. Yeah, you have Acamarians and Lower Decks and Starbase 80. That's like the second episode they've been seen in the entire history of Star Trek. 2 episodes. Now, the thing is with Acamarians is that the original appearance of Acamarians focused on the fact that their homeworld was overcrowded and that people were fighting over territory and resources on their homeworld, and well, they were facing the possibility of a cultural decline because of the fact that they couldn't expand and the limited resources were dwindling, and they needed to look outside their home planet to find more resources and so on and so forth, which is the entire reason why Chorgan was one of the gatherers. He did not feel as though he could simply live on the homeworld and just, go with that. Now, he decided that it would be better to build his own mining colony off somewhere else or something like that. And the ones at Starbase 80 are living on a Federation designed starbase because of the fact that territorial negotiations resulted in the Federation deciding to share the starbase with them. And yeah, that's a quick thing to say. So, what is there about these three races used as examples that is, things where I feel that the whole Planet of Hats thing doesn't really properly apply to them? Well, okay, let's go with Klingons for a start. In the case of Klingons, they are often referred to as a warrior race. And while they're referred to as that, that's mostly a TNG thing. And DS9, I suppose. But it's not even fully true in TNG, because in TNG we have this fun guy by the name of Jadan, who is a Romulan sympathizer. Yeah, a Klingon working with the Federation who's stealing trade secrets for the Romulans. I don't remember if they ever explained why, but yeah, Trader McTrader face. Yeah. Now, Klingon, the description of Klingons as honorable warriors. Yeah, he doesn't fit that. He was very dishonorable and not a warrior even. Although one could postulate that perhaps that was linked, is that, he chose to do something that just wasn't conducive to being a warrior. Whatever. Anyways, as someone pointed out at one point, though, in the series, that Klingon technology wasn't created by warriors, which was like, wait a second. How did Klingons become a technologically advanced civilization if they're a culture of warriors who don't build technology? Yeah, they're not actually all that. This is actually one of those things that was not even thought of in TOS, because in TOS, Klingons, while they were a bit, trigger happy, were very much people you could negotiate with. They would not just shoot you on sight unless they had a specific reason for it. And This is very different from their later depiction in TNG, and kind of goes a long ways toward explaining how Klingons have a highly technologically advanced civilization if they're a culture of warriors. Because the reality is, not all of them are. See, it's actually one of those things that's kind of weird is that TNG glorifies the warrior caste among the Klingons, but that's not all of the Klingons. It never was. I mean, you have guys like Jadan and Mara from TOS who they're not warriors. Like Mara gets taken prisoner by the crew of the Enterprise, and she doesn't even try to put up a fight. She just does the whole like, oh no, please come save me thing, and that's as far as it goes. Oh man. In hindsight, I should have found a picture of Mara. Oh well. In the case of the Acamarians, what keeps them from being a Planet of Hats race, at least in the first appearance, in their second appearance, because all of the Acamarians at Starbase 80 are apparently gatherers. Um, they kind of sort of do the Planet of Hats things because it's a group of gatherers, and they don't really have a whole lot of relevance to the plot. In The Vengeance Factor, however, they had a deep dive into Acamarian culture and highlighting the differences between the various sub-factions of Acamarians because the entire point of the episode was Picard getting roped into a internal dispute between various Acamarian subgroups about who would be doing this, that, and the other thing. There's actually an A plot and a B plot that are both related to the Acamarians because, Jorgan is technically a pirate by Federation standards. He did a pirate raid on a Federation outpost, and that's the reason why Picard gets involved because it's a Federation outpost, and the Federation Admiralty and stuff want to, you know, deal with the problem and make Jorgen stop doing that physically if necessary. So they talk to Jorgan about why he's being a gatherer, and that goes into the whole thing about the blood feuds and why he left the homeworld. Now, one thing that's interesting about the gatherers is that the gatherers don't follow the same clan logic that the homeworld does. The gatherers are just whoever the heck feels like being a gatherer, whatever clan affiliation is of secondary importance if people bother thinking about it at all. And that is something that goes a long way to having the gatherers be a drastically different social dynamic than the rest of the Acamarian civilization. And of course, there's the fact that the main Acamarian civilization has a whole bunch of clans who may or may not agree on things, which again gives you that whole like non-Planet of Hats approach to writing them because each of the different clans has their own, stuff. Actually, one thing that it becomes apparent if you look at it in enough detail is that the Trelesta clan and that technology that they used to enhance Utah is something that the other Acamarians did not have. And the because like Utah is extremely old by Acamarian standards and looks young. Well, the most Acamarians didn't have the medical technology to do that to themselves or each other. It's something that was kind of sort of a secret had been discovered by the Tralesta clan, much like the recipe for creating that microvirus thing, which is um, calibrated specifically to kill members of the Lornak clan. Very specific, and not something that the other Acamarians even knew about, apparently. Which, again, it goes a long ways towards preventing them from being a Planet of Hats race because of the fact that different Acamarians have different hats. Which goes back to the whole thing with the Cardassians. Natima Lang, not military. Leggett Damar, yeah, absolutely a high-ranking member of the Cardassian military. He's he's not just a member of the military; he's a guy in charge of the military. Natima Lang, just a civilian. Okay, kind of an important civilian, I suppose you could say, but still a civilian. That aspect of Cardassian civilization has a large impact on how you write them. Because, like I mentioned about Gul Macet, he doesn't wear the same style of uniform that Legat Damar does. And this has caused a lot of people to speculate because there was never any official confirmation or statements about this, that Gul Macet is wearing a uniform for something other than the Cardassian military. Now, the specifics of what exactly he was wearing a uniform for, well, like I said, no one ever said. He's the captain of a Cardassian ship. Anyhow, and that's a good enough for that on this topic, I think. Like I said, the key to avoiding the Planet of Hats thing is writing the members of the race as individuals, or subsets of the race, or sub-factions, or something along those lines, so that they aren't all the same. Otherwise, they end up like the Klingons often get written as, where you have 20 different people who are honorable warriors, or less than honorable warriors, and kind of boring as a result of all being written the same way. Anyways, see you next time.